This is small talk in a small town. When I first, in 1973, was elected, there are those who would say the population might have been 6,000, could have been 3. Very small. I didn't check it and didn't research it, and it's no big deal because it's over. But most recently I heard at the selectmen's meeting that when I left in 2012, it was 13,000, and I hear now it's 15,000. So let's go with that number anyway, somewhere between 13 and 15,000. Any way you cut it, that's considered, I believe, a small town. Our sister community that we enter into partnership on the school is a town called Bridgewater, and I believe Bridgewater, and Margaret, you may know better than I, but I think it's up around 28,000. It is, yeah. Around 28,000. So that's a larger town. Your question might be, when do you have enough in population to cease to be a town and think about being a city? And that depends. There are towns that are so large, people think they should be, and maybe they should be cities, and they just don't want to. They like the town form of government. Very quickly, I'll go over it, the fact that when you're a city, you have a mayor. One person is the executive branch and his staff. When you're a town, you have the Board of Selectmen, 3, 5, or 7, which I've mentioned before. And then you have either a executive secretary, which would be one step above a clerk, I suppose. You have the town administrator, that's the next level. And you have the town manager. Now, once you go to a town manager, however, you're going to a person that basically has become the executive branch of your town. So the manager is a very powerful position. The good news is you've structured it so that the town manager is there to answer for, and when times get tough, you can always say goodbye to him or her. Town administrator, I've always believed, is probably, recent years, is the most logical thing to have. I've got a number which I've used over the years, and the number is 10,000. Once a town reaches 10,000, I think it's entirely proper that the town executive secretary becomes the town administrator. I think it was Gordon Luciano who moved that Randall Buckner be named town administrator, and I'm not sure when the years were, but it could be the 80s and around there, I suppose, or maybe 90s tops. And Randy Buckner there became town administrator. And that to me is the best way for the route to go. Now the town has a town administrator, and his other positions in that executive branch are really appointed by the Board of Selectmen. And so in a fashion, they answer to the Board of Selectmen, depending upon the Board of Selectmen. I say this now because I'm going to, in small town talk, bring you to the most recent town meeting. And that was held in the last 2 weeks, I believe. And it was for mainly dollars. You had, in the old days, one town meeting, and it was the annual town meeting. You took up your money, you took up your zoning change. Now the town has grown to have enough business so that you have the money, and that would have been in November, and then you have the annual, well, what I call the annual town meeting, but it's the second town meeting. Later on, not sure of when it's going to be, it depends upon the business, but later on in the year you have the zoning and articles of the town, which the articles create laws. So at this town meeting, however, it was a town meeting of numbers, and they dealt primarily in free cash, and they used just about all of the free cash at that particular meeting. what happens at town meetings, and by the way, you should go. If I can remember when I first came to town, I attended, before I ever thought of getting involved in the executive branch, I spent almost a decade, almost 10 years, attending the town meetings, special town and regular town meetings. Now, the one that they had this past month had, I believe, over 30 articles. I should have brought it with me. It's here somewhere. It's here. If we really need it, we'll find it. I don't see why we would really need it unless we decide to go over, and maybe we will someday on what you call a slow news day. We'll go over the articles that raised monies, hundreds of, not, you're thinking maybe, small town, you just moved here, you got a house, very nice home, a very nice little developed area and neighborhood, and you figure, oh, maybe 20, maybe 50,000. No. Closer to $500,000 is the kind of money we're talking about. We're talking about one article was 500,000. So yes, some of these articles are very expensive, and you may justifiably so at the meeting raise your hand. Moderator will recognize you. He's looking for you to get involved, and he will recognize you, and you will stand up and you will ask, well, why have we got this article for 500,000 to go into an account called free cash? It doesn't say for what. What's going on? What's going on here? But basically, what happens in these types of meetings, the people that go there either don't want to jump up for fear they'll really not look too good, maybe if they stop the meeting, so they're not ready to debate with someone else who might jump up and make them look bad. So they basically let it fly by and they vote for it, or they don't vote at all. Titicus Road, trivia talk, but that's the kind of show it is, isn't it? Used to be Quikasham, and Quikasham would be like considered a Native American name for the street, and it was Burnt Swamp. It had different names. Burnt Swamp was one of them, but now it's Titicus Road, which sounds like it means something. It doesn't, but it sounds like it does, so it's important. And you go to that, and when you come to the end of that, you'll see a very large building with all the lights on the left-hand side. On the right, you'll see, in case you ever have a dispute with your sewer bill, you'll see there on the right, just before you get to the school, is the sewer department on the right, in case you want to go to that building. They have their office there and their meetings there, and they're scheduled. And the thing is about wanting to attend any of these different departments, you can always call the town clerk's office, 508-824-2700, nice even, 2700, and talk to Marcia or one of the clerks, and they will tell you where the meetings are, when they are held, meaning that the people who are appointed to those positions are there. Or you can go there any day, and there's usually, the 9 to 5 type of thing, I suppose. And there's usually a clerk there that will give you some information that you need. But if you want to go to a meeting to talk to commissioners, and let's stay with the sewer for a couple of minutes on the right-hand side, it's a fairly new building, built within the last 10 to 15 years. And they will, entertain you as you raise your hand, and you can lodge whatever reason you're there for whatever issue. Maybe you don't have sewer. Maybe you have on-site, what they call on-site. And so you may want sewer, and they'll give you explanations as to how, when, and why in that case. So that's on the right. On the left, okay, we're back to the school, and you'll see the lights are on in front. You just see the light, follow the lights, and just go towards it. You'll see police officers and clerks out in front of the hall. It's the Joseph Betancourt Theater. And you check through the clerk and give them your name and address, and they'll look you up. If you're going to have a vote, you really have to be registered to be a voter, but they'll look you up on that. If you're a visitor from another town or something of that nature, then you'll have to sit in a given section. It isn't that you're not allowed, it's that you'll have to sit in a certain section for that. And therefore, you're not allowed to vote if you're not a member of the town, but you can see how the town meeting, if you arrive and you haven't registered and you want to see how the town meeting works, then you can do that. In this case here, you and I have very little excuse to be knowledgeable when and where the town meeting is, because those are the two town meetings, the one for the monies and the one for the laws. They are sent out to your house. You should get it. If you don't get that, you'd best go down to the clerk and say you'd like to be put on the mailing list. So anyway, we've arrived at the town meeting now. I've said it before, so I don't want to bore you going into the depths of it, but when I first arrived in town, the town meeting number was somewhere between 250, it might have been 200. At that time, we had a population of 4,000 probably, and the numbers we wanted was 250. If you didn't get the 250, there were those who might ring in what you call a fire alarm. And the different call firefighters would come to the fire station to see where the fire was, and they'd find, and oftentimes they knew what the situation was. There was no fire. They didn't have the quorum, so therefore they couldn't do the business at the town meeting. So they were told to turn around, get in their car, and go up to wherever. In the old days, it was at what is now Jola Liberty School, but now it's the middle school, and get in the car and go up and check yourself in and sit down and attend that meeting, and we got to get the number of 250. Well, what happened over the period of years, you'd see many cars in the parking lot, and you'd say, wow, there's going to be a lot of people. No, they're at the Little League game, and they were at local events, but they weren't at the town meeting, and the numbers went down. And it got to a point where even calling in your call fire, you still couldn't get enough to have your town meeting. So as a result of that, you decided to lower the quorum number. As you lowered it, meaning I'm saying you're at the meeting now, and as you lower it, people who read about it in the paper think you're trying to get away with something. There you are, you went to the town meeting, and it went from 250 to 150, 150 to 100, and 100 to 75 probably. I don't even know what it is now, but I'm going to give you an educated guess, and so close enough. Around 25 people is the quorum number now. Now, one of the dangers of that, and I'm not a favor of what I'm going to tell you what could happen, but I will let you know what could happen. If you attend few town meetings and different groups begin to run that town meeting by virtue of the fact that they can come with a given number, which I will talk about here in a minute. After a while, you'd say, we the citizens don't have control over that any longer. That a large group from a neighborhood is coming in for an issue, and they're going to vote for that, and therefore your vote, you voted, it counted. Don't, but you have no chance. Now, what's the town's solution to that? And on that, I am not in favor of it. Don't misquote me now. It is to have what is called representative form of government. They have that in a little town called Falmouth. They have that in a little town called Stoughton. I'm not sure about Easton. I'm not sure. They may have it. I believe they do, but I'm not sure. But Raynham does not have representative form of government. Now, what is representative form of government? Representative form of government is to have different individuals in areas of the town squared off, and neighborhoods in a fashion, and they run to be the representative, and then the winner of that goes to that town meeting. And therefore you, as Joe citizen who wants to express your point of view, You can go to that person who represents your neighborhood, and you can talk to that person. But you cannot go to the regular town meeting and really have that much of an input into it, because what you say is going to be voted on by the representatives. No big cigarette, it's called representative town government. Why am I not in favor of it? There's something about citizens having the rights to express their opinion at a town meeting, and it is, I'm going to tell you what it is. You keep a cigarette now, right? It is the last true democracy in the United States of America. It's after that, it's over, folks. After that, it's representative form. You go into Boston to the State House, and you have state representatives, state senators, and a governor. You go to Washington, and you've got federal representatives, federal senators, and a president. Now, there's all sorts of offshoots of it, but Joe Citizen goes there with his or her hat in their hand, and they're going to give their plight to the person that, in our case, at our town meetings, often a young man named Stephen Lynch. I don't know if you heard that name or not. Stephen Lynch is a representative. He lives, actually, I believe, in South Boston. They gerrymander. They set districts up. We had Barney Frank. We had Joe Moakley. These people would have to get an airplane to get down to some of their districts, probably. But they do that. They set it up for whatever reason they set it up. I'm not complaining about it, because what you find is that small towns, unless a miracle occurs, like if you had a Kennedy living in your town, something like that, you don't have a representative from your town anyway. I believe originally when Stephen ran for this position, I think it was well over a decade ago, maybe 20 years, and he ran against probably the most popular senator in the history of our district, called Senator Mark Pacheco. I believe he ran against Mark Pacheco, and he defeated Mark Pacheco in Mark Pacheco's only defeat. So Mark Pacheco was a representative and then a state senator, and he is still a state senator, and anyone who wants to run against him can. But don't you go to Vegas and try to get some money by voting against the Mark Pachecos of this world. So Mark isn't going to win. However, when the guy comes from South Boston, and the population of just South Boston is 5 times the city of Taunton, for heaven's sake. So that's the way it works. Don't whine about it. That's the way it works. If you want to write a book on it, you can, and I will probably tell you nobody will read it. But if you'd like to write a book, you could write a book how they set up their different districts. Because the irony of the situation is, Stephen Lynch in the future will become probably one of the most famous senators in the United States of America, because now the Democrats are back in charge, and he is about to take over a committee. And before that, it was Barney Frank for us. Does that name not sound familiar? Before that, it was a young man named Joseph Moakley. You may see a building or two dedicated to Joe Moakley. And so our representatives, I can't think, Rogers, I believe, he was our representative. I think his name was Rogers. If you look it up and I'm wrong, congratulations to you and your family. But there was a fellow that represented us in the latter part of his career. With all due respect, he had a difficult time coordinating his thoughts, but he still won. And his aides in the office basically ran the district. And you say, well, what was he? He was either the majority or the minority leader in Washington, D.C. The little guy that got off the plane and wasn't sure what his name was in charge of the entire United States of America for the House of Representatives. He was the majority and minority leader. I'm not sure which. It's back before my time. So it gives you an idea of when you're in a small town. Now, this is small town talk. If this is putting you to sleep, well, congratulations, you're doing better than me, because I don't sleep that well anymore. But if it does, then it's not that purpose, but that's small talk in a town. First of all, if you're going to have small talk in a town, it's kind of good to know what a town's all about. That's what towns are all about. You've always had, by the way, one of the top town moderators and the top town clerks. And you right now have one of the top town administrators, town moderator, I'm sorry, because he was a selectman. And he has been active in the town for over 20 years, easy, maybe 30. And your town clerk is, of course, of the family of town clerks. Her mother was the town clerk, and so the family of clerks in the town of Raynham now go back over 30 years, maybe 40 years. So, and by the way, I forgot to see, you're sorry you reminded me, aren't you? The town meeting doesn't run without those two people. The rest are participants in the town democracy as what you call the legislature. But it can't work without a moderator and without the clerk. Those are the two people that are significant, but also very important, because you don't have the town meeting without the moderator and without the clerk. And that's just the name of the town meeting. We had a meeting the other night. I'm going to give a number. It's not going to be accurate, but it's not going to be too far either. Maybe 50, 60 people at the town meeting, voters. There were non-voters there. Of course, they would be town employees who are not living in the town. But then the rest, all the people were registered voters who are remaining there to watch the meeting. And they all came there to vote. But there was nothing controversial on there because it was all money articles. And unless you researched the money aspect of it, you weren't in a position to debate it. So basically, aye. There were no no's. There were no no's. Now, I don't know what the article number, do you remember what it was, Michael? 30-something?
Yeah, it was.
In the 30s somewhere. Came up the article that close to, I'll say 10 to 15 people were there to vote for the first time at a town meeting probably, and they were there to vote on the one article that normally would appear, and it will appear again probably for the location, for this was to study the location, for a dog walk. Is that close enough to correct, Margot? A dog walk. And they want to have the dog walk in the town of Raynham, which some of them are new and had a dog walk where they came from. One of the issues is, will people police themselves? That's a debate, and so that will maybe not even be discussed at the meeting, because the people that are going to vote against it because two of the three selectmen were against it. One selectman was for it, two were against it. Now, I have my own opinion, but I try to stay neutral because that's what small town talk. If I just give you my opinion, what's the sense, right? So there are two sides to this story. And as they came to the first article they were going to vote on, and the only article that was questioned, by the way, when it came, the moderator read the article, asked for a vote, and there was hollering yes and hollering no. When that happens, there's no way he's going to try to guess which side is right. And so therefore, we're all given a little blue, was it, Margot? We give a little blue little ticket. And we hold the ticket up when we want to vote. Moderator comes down. In the old days, we used to have a bunch of people count them. But see, now the number is small enough so the moderator can handle himself. He's got a clicker. I think he uses it at the supermarket when he's going to buy cabbage and things of that nature. He clicks it, you know. Dozen eggs. And so when he comes down, John comes down with his clicker. And therefore, if you have your, now, only vote once. and he'll vote. He'll go down the left section, center, right section, center, and he'll click for all those who vote yes. Got a number, write the number down. 29 votes yes. Then he says, no. Who's no? Well, the two selectmen. Interestingly enough, I don't know if you people studied it or not, but I studied the table across. I think the Finance Committee and Capital Planning pretty much went no. I think, as a matter of fact, if the vote were just up at the table, which I'll talk about in a minute, if it were just up at the table, that vote, then it wouldn't have passed. And so, therefore, the noes are now the noes are counted, and the people raise their hand with the little blue. They're not green or blue. It was blue.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, whatever it was green or blue, and the noes hold it. And 19 people raised their hand. The two selectmen, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 up at the head table. Finance Committee, Capital Planning. Town Council, I don't believe, lives in Raynham. I don't believe he votes. So, except for that, though, the table up in the front votes. And the vote came out, it was voted yes. Now, next question was, what is the vote yes about? The yes is to have a study committee as to where you're going to have the dog walk. I'll give you the 3 locations. One was right across the street from where you were sitting, in between the middle school and the sewer department. There is a wooded area owned by the town, and that is one to study to see whether the dog walk to be there. I'm going to give you the question that's going to be raised, however. It is also, not that it puts people at risk to be hit with a bullet, but it is the arsenal, it is where they have the rifle club or whatever they call it for rifles. I'll go over weapons at another time. But it's a group of people that have been there maybe 50 years. And so there's very nice neighborhood, very nice school, very nice departments, and all buildings, and the rifle range there. The second location is down by, I believe the South School is one. And that is an area which is a very congested residential area. As a matter of fact, it backs up to the mobile home park, which we'll talk about another day. And then the third location, now I'm going to have to try to, it is the North Raynham. It is where the softball field is. I didn't want to raise my hand because I hate to rain on parades. The outfield we've always called the cemetery. The cemetery backs up to that, and if you hit a good fly ball, you're liable to hit, one of the grave sites out there. So that's one of the so all 3 have a problem. All 3 are okay, and that's the one they're going to study. I thank you very much. That was the article, and the only article at the town meeting. Thank you. You've been more than patient with what we call town meeting.